I'm excited to introduce one of our partners, Chris Aguilar, MSP coaching specialist. Welcome here, Chris.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so we do these little videos to give our clients, our community, a feel for our partners, what they do and what's unique and what it's like to work with them. So just going
Exciting.
through a few questions. I'll just start
Cool.
off with, for those meeting you for the first time, what's your background and what got you into MSP coaching?
Well, I have a long track record in MSPs. I've been involved in the industry for over 20 years. I always say to people, it's like most people, I started out 20 some odd years ago with a screwdriver and a dream crawling under desks. And if any of the audience knows what it's like to recover an Exchange server in the middle of the night from tape, then you and I have a lot in common.
Yeah.
Um, I I worked my way up from being a technician to a COO level position for 10 years, and then took a little break and did some fun things I've always wanted to do in my life, and then came back to IT and had my own little MSP, and then went to work for another MSP as a VP of Ops. And then from there, I actually joined a MSP coaching firm with my Autotask certifications and things that I had learned in my other roles. It was a good fit, and then now I'm on my own helping MSPs, and it's a very exciting, fun thing to do for me.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, it's a huge need. Like so many MSPs need help. There's a lot of chaos, ambiguity, and
Yeah,
lack of structure.
and I always liken it. It's like a golf swing. Everybody has their own way of doing it. Everybody's got their way, and so my goal is always I want to meet you where you are. Most of my clients are kind of on the smaller, 500K to like 5 million or so. So they're just in that space where it's like the grinds are getting harder and the gears are getting noisier, and the owner, who was an engineer and is now an owner, suddenly has to run a business and scale and think about growth. And that's where someone like me or some of the other, there's a lot of coaches out there, but I try to meet you where you're at, and then let's develop some processes to get you to the next phase.
Yeah, that's huge because you can bring all this stuff that's meant for a company that's 10 times your size, but it's not relevant.
Yeah, totally, totally.
I've done that is worked with MSP coaches and we built stuff that we didn't really need. So ended up after a couple of years kind of taking it out, dialing it back to what do we actually need and streamline.
Yeah, isn't it funny? It's like when you're in an MSP and you go to a client, you're not going to quote them, a giant, data center style system for 10 users, right? And an
Yep.
MSP, as they're scaling, more of those tools become necessary. But at the ground level, it's like let's get a functioning service desk, let's get some notifications, let's let customers know what's going on, and most importantly, let's find all the stuff that's hidden behind the floorboards that no one's talked about for probably months. Those tickets are just sitting out there in the ether
Yeah.
that someone's going to call about in a month and be angry about.
Yeah. So yeah, you've worked with Autotask inside real MSPs. What do you see
Yeah.
most often going wrong in service delivery and ticket flow?
Wow, that we could spend about the next hour on that one, but
Oh, got like
but
one or
for,
2 minutes here. So
for the most part, I think it is the stuff under the floorboards. I know every CEO I've ever worked for and with, their biggest thing that keeps them up at night is like, what don't I know? And
mm,
so in Autotask, it's a pretty busy interface. It's kind of hard to figure out, especially when you want to start talking about live reports and data. It's a very complicated system. So a lot of my work when I come in is like, let's find out what you don't know. Let's see, like, is there margin in your contracts? Are there tickets hiding that we don't know about? What is a what is our SLAs? Are we actually, making or meeting those metrics? How can we improve? And those are the things I look at, because again, there's a lot of playbooks, there's a lot of ideas or thought leadership around how to do things, and that stuff's it's tried and true and it works great. So how can we dial that into your system and make it so that you can actually sleep at night and not be up at
yeah,
the office at 6 at night fixing someone's Outlook because someone forgot to do the ticket,
yeah,
because that does happen.
all the time. So yeah, you've had previous experience with TopLeft at the MSP you worked at. How did
Mhm.
it help the team there, like both the dispatchers and the technicians?
Uh,
How did it help?
Significantly, because everybody, and this is something I think is lost sometimes in MSP coaching, is that everyone sees data differently. And most IT people, at least that I've experienced, they like visual displays. There's a reason why there's dashboards in most PSAs. People love seeing things. So having a visual breakdown of calendaring and things like that is super important, especially when it comes to dispatch and triage. And I mean, we all know things change. So being able to literally move appointments around and without having to drive through the interfaces is a really big time saver. And I think it displays information in a way that most people in IT want to see it.
Yep. Yeah, we're visual thinkers. Like something like 10% of our brain or more is dedicated to visual processing.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I personally did a neuropsych test a few months ago, and that was my number one way of retaining information is visually. That's just how I learn, and I will say, generally, probably most of our MSP population sees things the same way.
Yeah. So, obviously, our clients who are onboarding with TopLeft, coming to it, they want leaner operations to be more streamlined, but they don't know where to start. So where do you typically begin when just helping an MSC get out of chaos and getting traction and stuff? Where do you start?
Well, I kind of take it like an MSP walking into a new client, like where does it hurt? And what keeps you up at night? Those are the big questions to ask an owner, because those are where you're going to find all the kind of stuff that's broken. I think especially for an application like TopLeft, like it's garbage in, garbage out. So those queues, statuses, all that stuff needs to be not only vetted, but make sure everybody understands what all the terms mean. And then just making sure that when the service desk is looking at this current condition, you can tell how things are going based on what tickets are sitting around, how stuck are all the projects, because those are all just things that you just see. They're canaries in the coal mine as far as when I look at an Autotask install. I have a 75 point. It sounds like I feel like Pet Boys at the auto mechanic. I have a 75 point safety inspection I'll go through, and we can see kind of best practices versus what's really there, and determine a roadmap to move forward.
Yeah, we have some things like that as well, like a daily habits checklist, a scorecard, which is huge.
Love that.
It's performance, productivity, those daily habits of your daily huddles, cleaning your boards, the right statuses, time entered. There's like 20 different things to look at.
Wow.
If you're practicing them and stacking those habits, like it takes a while, it can take 6 to 12 months, but very transformational.
Yeah, it can be. And I think especially now with, since COVID, everybody's kind of all over the place. Having centralized tools like TopLeft helps also keep your teams organized. Those daily stand-ups, things like that, they become very important once you have an isolated workforce, especially.
Yeah. So here's a question I'm going to throw in, because I think we're both passionate about it, as we talked before, is how can people with ADHD thrive in an MSP?
Well, I think there's a couple ways. One thing to keep in mind, and this is just because I have a background in ADHD coaching, so this came up, but ADHD is a brain neuro condition based on interest, right? So someone with ADHD is going to do things they're interested in more so than the things they're not interested in. The constant thing you hear every MSP say is like, why can't my guys enter time? Because sometimes it might be a neurodiversion thing, or it's just one of those things they forget to do because they're on to the next thing. And so I think there's two things I look at. First of all is management support and understanding kind of what your people are like, because not everyone's going to fit into the same square. So understanding how they retain information, what they do like to do. I think one of the best employers I ever had was someone asked me every day, like, are you happy doing what you're doing? Because it gives you an opportunity to have some choice. And I think that's an important part of neurodivergent people, is they need to feel like they have some choice. Secondly, I think in order to really thrive inside of an MSP, if you are neurodivergent, is really about kind of staying on top of your stuff. And it sounds so funny to say because it's just the truth, but scheduling your time, making sure that you have one system of capturing information, whether it be the ticketing system or I'm a big OneNote guy, so everything goes into OneNote for me. I literally, because I have ADHD, my literal working system is I have a daily journal. Everything I've done that day is logged. So I know where I've been, what I've done, and who I've talked to, and what I've promised to deliver. And so developing systems, using your engineer brain to develop a system for you for task capture, I think is probably the most important. And then secondly, it's harder for management because you want to it's so common for us to say like negatively, like, hey, why aren't you doing that? Come on. Instead of asking like, hey, how can I support you in getting this done? There's a model out there called conscious leadership that I really believe in. It's more about person based interaction than just like, I'm going to beat you up with an SOP and a performance improvement program. Not that those things don't have places, but it's also understanding kind of how your people work. And I think that's a really important piece of the puzzle.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. Okay, yeah. So, like, how does your work complement the tools like TopLeft? And I guess in particular, I'm thinking like, where do you plug in to make the adoption stick, so people are engaging with the Kanban board?
I think it's first of all getting the system to a point where it is stable, right? Where all the kind of like some of those processes are ironed out. We know what to expect as far as service delivery. Everybody's in good agreement about how the data should be flowing. Once
Yeah.
the data is good, then a tool like TopLeft will kind of take it to the next level and allow you. In my book, I would look at it in the service delivery area first because that's just me. That's the first place that MSPs could lose clients is like make sure your customer service is on point. And then secondly, there's so many different applications for it as far as your other sales teams and project teams, especially on the project side, because you've done so much work in bringing some of those agile concepts into this, which is, in my opinion, really needed in the MSP world. I truly love the project stuff. I think that's where it's going to be super powerful for most MSPs because it is a project management tool at its core. And
Yeah.
an MSP's project management tends to be the thing that's hiding in the closet no one talks about. Projects tend to be the thing they get to when they have time, right? So I think being able to formalize that and create a structure that people can collaborate off of is super important.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, well, we'll leave it there. Anyone wants to hear connect more with Chris? This video is normally on our partner page on our website, and we put a button there to his calendar or his email, so you can click through and then connect with him. So, or see his LinkedIn profile. So, thank you, Chris.
All right, thanks. I appreciate it. Thanks for the time.